Right now, the Clarity Act conversation is spiraling completely out of control. You have Coinbase stepping back, senators threatening to kill the bill. Ripple's still at the table, though, but most of what you're hearing right now is not legislation. It's negotiation language taking place behind the scenes that's being mistaken for outcomes. This isn't how this plays out. So, tonight, we're going to slow this down and strip out the noise and walk through what's actually happening and what isn't happening. And what's really going to matter going forward. Stephen Haynes is in the house. I see you in there first today. Happy Saturday. We're going to talk about the Clarity Act today, and we are going to really try to get an understanding and push back through all of this noise because I mean, we're seeing everything on X. We're seeing senators coming out and saying that if Coinbase doesn't come back to the table, they're going to kill the bill. We're seeing Coinbase saying that that's not what was said to them. There's all kinds of things that are being happened and being complete, or there's all kinds of things happening and that are being taken completely out of context. So again, we'll walk through the basics of what is happening in the Clarity Act. I actually found a myth and fact document directly from uh let's see here. It was directly from the United States Senate Committee, the United States Senate Banking Committee, on what was going on with the Clarity Act. It's myths and facts, trying to put a rest to everything that's happening right now because you have Coinbase saying one thing, you have Ripple basically saying Coinbase come back to the table. Um, it's a mess right now. And honestly, it's got me really worrisome about the market. So we'll talk a little bit about the market too, because I'm starting to get a little leery in the crypto space right now. But I do think it'd be a good opportunity as well, because again, we are here for a long view. We're here for what happens a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, not necessarily on what's going to happen today. But let's take a quick look at price and see what's happening today. Right now, we've been chopping around 208 to 205 ish pretty much all day. There's no real action taking place, but we did fall back below EMA 9. So we are in a downtrend now. We're going to test it, but I'm worried about this pulling back all the way back down to $1.75 right now. That is my concern. I definitely think that's a possibility because there's a lot of FUD happening in the market right now, especially we don't have a ruling on tariffs yet. Clarity Act's getting pushed back, potential shutdown, right? Potential government shutdown at the end of the month. You got Trump going after the Fed. More than likely, we're not going to have a rate cut this month, so it's not looking good for January, folks. I think we might have a pullback as far as market wide, but Ripple is still building out. Ripple is still getting licensing. Ripple is still expanding their use case. So infrastructure, utility. We'll cover utility here in a second, but we want to focus on clarity first. And again, engage in the chat, everybody. The chat is the lifeblood of the stream because once we get through all of the information, it's a Saturday night. Hopefully, I can get some more people in here. We're competing with the football game, but I want to really grow this up and get a good conversation going with you guys because truthfully, it's not about the news, it's not about the price chart. It's about the mindset and what we're building over the long view. And we do that best when we are talking with each other. So, again, moving forward back into the information, though, we will take a look here. Volume was up yesterday, I think. Yeah, this is yesterday. So 13 million in volume yesterday. And again, the entire market is chopping. Everything's down a little bit today. For the week, everything's up for the most part, with the exception of XRP, XTC, VLO, and a couple others, which is what concerns me. Bitcoin's up 5% for the week, and XRP's down 1.5%. That is concerning to me. Again, not financial advice. Everything here is for entertainment and educational purposes only. But in the short term, I'm thinking that we're going to have a little bit of a pullback here. So don't freak out. But when we're talking about that, we are here again. We think clarity and utility are ultimately what could drive this thing. So the normal day-to-day price action really doesn't matter in the short, in the long term, right? In the long view. But we've been tracking this account set activity, or at least I've been tracking the account set activity for a while now, and it is still maintaining at 40,000 account set a day. And again, that's more than the history of the ledger by far and continuing to grow consistently. This is consistent activity at this point. This isn't a spike. This is 2 months long. This should begin to translate to payments volume, which over the last 2 weeks we've seen it increase, and now we're starting to see it maintain up here over a million easily. But again, we want to see that continue to climb up beyond 2 million. I think at that point, if we climb beyond 2 million per day and maintain that volume, I definitely think we're going to see an increase in price for XRP. There's been, again, a lot going on with the Clarity Act. However, World Economic Forum is coming up. It's going to be a major, major event. January 19th through the 23rd, both Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse and President Trump will be there. Remember, Ripple is a WEF partner and have been since 2022. Larry Fink is I believe, the president of the World Economic Forum. Connect dots, people. Okay. Again, we're here for the long view. We're not here necessarily for what's going to happen today or tomorrow, but what's going to happen over the next decade. And when you see all of these people in the same rooms together consistently, it makes you raise an eyebrow. Follow the money. So the fear and greed index is still sitting in the greed with 62. And then what else did I have here? I had more. Sorry, I've been having a head issue today. I covered this yesterday. This is, I'll cover it again real quick. But XRP Community Day, Ripple's Brad Garlinghouse to headline February 11th global event. You can find this on X. You can also follow me on X at Longview Crypto. But let's see here. The event will run across 3 regional X spaces, making it accessible worldwide for the Asia Pacific region. The event will take place on the 12th. What is XRP Community Day? XRP Community Day is a global virtual gathering focused on growth, utility, and the future of XRP and the broader XRP Ledger ecosystem. So again, they're doing something good for the community. It's always fun, but the meat and potatoes today is boring. So they put this out 4 days ago, but it's myth versus fact on the Clarity Act. I am not going to read the whole thing verbatim to you, but excuse me, just drank a whole Coke before I started this thing. But so I'm not going to go over the whole thing verbatim to you, but you can go through and see every single myth, and then it explains what's going on behind it. Now, a lot of people are going to say this is BS. They don't believe it. I can read it, read you guys documents directly from the government, and if you believe it, you don't believe it. A lot of people don't believe it, so is it all? I think that's a better question. I've got lots of you I got a few of my regulars in the chat, quite a few of you here. I'm not sure how many people are watching, but this is a better question. I think this is a better question when it comes to the Clarity Act. What do you guys think? I know a lot of people think the government is already involved, that they've been working with Ripple and XRP behind the scenes for the last decade, getting the infrastructure in place. That's one theory. Another theory is that there's a switch or a preset price for XRP that was negotiated a decade ago. There's a lot of different theories that the infrastructure has been built out over the last decade or beyond, behind the scenes in secret with the NDAs, right? The 1,700 NDAs that Ripple has, even though an NDA is a standard practice in any business negotiation or in any business discussion, but they have over 1,700 NDAs. There's talks that I've heard rumors now that BlackRock is going to acquire Ripple and use the XRP ledger to manage their global asset. There's so many different theories. Let me know in the chat, what do you think is happening behind the scenes? Do you think that this is all a sham? Do you think it's all a play? It's all by design for them to put XRP into effect? I'm not sure if that's the case or not. I do believe that XRP is going to appreciate over the long term. I do believe that there is a real math model that I can follow that shows me that it's going to go up over the long term. We've covered this a couple times now. It's our updated ETF math model based on a true supply shock and what it would look like based on what is being taken into the ETF trust and what's being held in others' wallets and things like that. But truly, truly, we are not really going to see any kind of real price appreciation until we start seeing this payment activity go up. And I don't think we're going to see that happen at scale without the Clarity Act. And right now, no one can get on the same page on what's going on with the Clarity Act. Because right now, they want to, let's see here. I had more of these saved and bookmarked. Darn it. I wish I had it pulled up here, but here it goes. So this is what I mean with the misinformation. It says new Coinbase head of US policy says Senate talks are back on. We're so close, and she thinks it could be done in a month. That was put out yesterday. But at the same time, I saw you see Eleanor Tourette and Brian Armstrong here going back and forth about misreporting and misinformation. And let's see here. It says, in general, love your post, but this is not accurate. The White House has been super constructive here. They did ask us to see if we can go figure out a deal with the banks, which we're currently working on. Actually, we've been cooking up some good ideas on how we can help. So, and that was in response to Eleanor saying that the White House was essentially threatening to pull the bill completely if Coinbase didn't come back to the table. So we had threatening language from the White House to Coinbase. Eleanor Tourette reported on it, and Brian Armstrong saying it's fake now that they've come back to the table. And there's rumors of things getting done in a month now. But at the same time, just yesterday, we were saying that we were hearing rumors that the Clarity Act's not going to be done until 2029. And then we were hearing earlier this week that it was going to be voted on the 15th. No one has a clue because no one's actually reporting on the process of what's happening with the Clarity Act. Right now, they are this is negotiations, right? It's going to be compromise on both sides. And honestly, I'm trying to set realistic expectations for everyone. Us as retail, us as DeFi, right? More than likely, we're not going to win. Follow the money. Golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. But that's why we follow it. And that's why we position ourselves in the best possible spot that we can. So what is going to win in crypto? Tokenization, privacy, RWAs, right? Things that bridge traditional finance with blockchain. All of these things that are going to be needed with real use case is what's going to have a supply and demand moving forward in this, in my opinion. Not financial advice. None of this is financial advice, but we're here for the long view. And if you've been around for a little bit, you know I'm all about infrastructure. So that's why I buy copper, silver, property, real estate, whatever I could get my hands on that is going to be needed in the future, because the US dollar is trash and has been continuing to go down and will continue to go down. My opinion, not financial advice. But I'm going to hop into the chat real quick here and see what everyone's doing. Everyone get the chat going. Hopefully we get some people in here on a Saturday night. We're going up against the football game, so there's not really much you can do there. I think there's only like 12 people in the stream, unfortunately. So it's a slow night, but what can you do? What can you do, guys? So let's see what everyone's doing here. Get an XRP Army chat going on. Stephen Haynes said, happy Saturday. Happy Saturday, Stephen. Raul's in the house. Hello, Raul. Kevin Hawthorne made it in today. Stephen Haynes said, it's really frustrating that we're told that the U.S. banks wouldn't use XRP until the Clarity Act passes. Then we find out banks are pushing back on the Clarity Act. Well, they're pushing back on the Clarity Act because they don't want people to have stablecoin yield, because essentially it takes the money out of your traditional brick and mortar banks. They don't want us, the user, they don't want us earning that interest on our cash that's sitting in the bank or sitting unused. Because right now, when you put your money in the bank, you put $1,000 in there, they give you 1%, right? Well, now you can hold $1,000 in stable coins on, I don't use Coinbase, I'll use Robinhood. Now you can hold $1,000 in stable coins on Robinhood and get 3.75% just for leaving it there. They want to do away with that. They don't want you to be able to do that. They don't want stablecoin yield to be a thing because they want you to put your money in banks so they can make the money on it. Again, it's gonna be a lot of back and forth, but truthfully, that's what it comes down to. That's the big thing. That's why Coinbase walked away. It's because it's over stable coin yield. It's over banks making money off of your money sitting there instead of you getting it. That's the holdup right now. Brad Dixon says the delay was planned. It could be. I mean, again, that falls into what people think is going on. Is the government behind it? Are they not behind it? Is this already set into effect in advance? We don't know. But that's why we hold it. That's why we do our research. And that's why we plan for the long view. If something nefarious is going on, and again, I would love to be wrong, but I'm not planning on it to go to $100 over the next couple weeks or couple months. Again, would love to be wrong. I'm still stacking every day because I believe it's going to be worth something, 5-10 years from now. So Far Maximus says, still betting on $3 XRP for the end of the month. You can call me Jake C. I hope you're right, Far Maximus. I hope you're right. We very well both could be right. It could pull back to $1.75 and then shoot right back up to $3. So I live in Missouri. We make a joke. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, it'll change. The XRP chart can be like that sometimes. Sometimes it cannot make up its mind what it wants to do. Sometimes it could drop down to $1.75 and then jump up to $2.50 in 3 days. So we very well could be right. Both of us could be right. I would love for both of us to be right, Far Maximus. How about that? Stephen Haynes says XRP has had tons of wins and it doesn't feel like we get any push in price unless Bitcoin does something. Again, Stephen, I think that's because, again, we need clarity and utility. That's why I follow the payments activity, and that's why I've been saying that we need to know what XRP is going to be defined as, what role it's going to fill. Because don't forget, we've already seen the documents come out that say in the preliminary write-up, the draft language has XRP in there, the same with Bitcoin and Ethereum, right, as a commodity. And then shortly after that, Ripple submitted a letter requesting that they keep it open to be changed later, which I thought was very interesting because the only thing they could really change to at a later time would be a currency. So I thought that was interesting. But I do believe that we need to know right now the reason it's still moving with Bitcoin is because it's still a speculative market right now. People don't want to believe that, but until we have things signed into law, until the utility is actually happening on chain at scale, now we're seeing great things happen. We're seeing great news. We're seeing the infrastructure build out. And we're seeing the account set activity rise, but it's not translating into payment volume yet. And we can see that on Ledger. ETFs have been buying up like crazy. XRP is being removed from supply. But is there really a strong demand for it right now that's going to cause a supply shock? There's not a strong enough demand for that, and we're going to need utility for that. Now, if you take the ETFs buying and locking up XRP, remember, it hasn't been flowing back out, okay? So they continue to buy and lock up XRP. Whales continue to buy and hold XRP. The float is getting very, very low right now as far as our supply shock model. If we have a rush of any kind, FOMO hops in, and then we're just going to get a mass. It will, when it moves, I think it's going to blow off the top. I think it might blow off the top hard. I know I was talking about a steady increase, but I think I am starting to think that our next all-time high that we hit is going to happen like this. I don't know when, I don't know what'll cause it, but I feel like the float has been stretched so thin as far as the supply goes that when we do finally get that push of utility or that little bit of FOMO and we get that drive back into the market, I do think it's just going to pop just hard. Now, it's not saying it's going to go to like $10 instantly or anything like that, but I could totally see like a 50% move in a week or something like that for sure. Again, we just had a 30% move and we lost a lot of it, unfortunately, but I could see another strong move after another pullback for sure. Brad, let's see here. 12 industry and 13 industry. Okay. Farm Maximus says now why I see why Ripple filed for the banking charter. The banks don't want to play on a level playing field. Ripple Bank will not need a Clarity Act to stand and move forward regardless of the Clarity Act. Well, even when they get their bank charter, again, that'll allow them to plug into the federal government, but it doesn't define a use case for XRP for institutions to start investing in it and using in it. Again, think of yourself as a $1 trillion company, okay? If you're a $1 trillion company, are you going to put, $20 billion of business into an asset and into a blockchain that can go away in 4 years? Because right now that is a reality, because we don't have legislation right now, because everything that's been done to this point can be undone with the new administration. So the trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that we're waiting for to come on Ledger is not going to happen without clarity. It's just not, because they're not going to risk it going away. My opinion, not financial advice, but I truly do believe that if I had trillions of dollars, I wouldn't start putting that into something that doesn't have legal security that it's going to be okay to stay there for the long term. But that's why we do our research and we take calculated risks. To me, with XRP, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But I want to be honest with you guys on why it still moves with Bitcoin and with everything else. And Ripple can get all this positive news, and XRP's price doesn't move because we need it to have the utility, and we need more supply and demand. Just because the price hasn't moved yet, though, doesn't change everything that's happened. The price hasn't moved for the entire crypto market right now, for the most part. Now, some have performed better than others, but the super cycles and the altcoin season and what everyone's been talking about for the last year hasn't happened. But that doesn't change that the infrastructure that's been built out for the XRP ledger over the last 18 months, in my opinion, it doesn't change the use case and the problems that a lot of these projects are going to solve, right? Like the Canton network, like Quant, like Ethereum or Solana. All of these things have a major real world use case that they are trying to solve, right? A problem that they're trying to solve. And as we move forward in this, it's definitely going to grow, in my opinion. Farm Maximus said, cold in the loo tonight and will be springtime next week. Exactly, Farm Maximus. Missouri weather, man, it is something. That's freezing tonight. It could be 65 tomorrow. You never know. It was a few days ago, it was 65 out here, and tonight it's like 20. It's freezing. Operation Buzz says, no matter the Clarity Act, Ripple becomes a bank and XRP goes to price appreciation. Again, I mean, them getting their bank charter plugs them directly into all of the Fed rails, but it doesn't mean XRP will be used at that time. Again, I don't think XRP is going to be used until we get the Clarity Act. But again, we can follow the activity on Ledger, right? We're seeing payment activity start to increase. Can it continue to increase and maintain is the question. Race Fan is in the house. Good evening, Race Fan. Operation Buzz said XRP has been declared not to be a security, but a commodity this close towards becoming a currency. It has not been declared a commodity yet. The only clarity XRP has is that it is not a security. The proposed legislature that has not been signed into law yet, the draft that they're working on does have it in there as a commodity as of right now. Yes, but again, that's not law yet. Yeshua says, hello, everyone. What if Ripple just uses their bank instead of those big institutions for the clarity? Again, Ripple can do all of that, but that's not going to translate necessarily to XRP. Ripple Payments is great. They'll be able to use RLUSD and all of those things. But again, major institutions are not going to jump in on XRP until they have something in law, in writing, that makes them understand that it's not going to go away in a few years. Could you imagine if, say say, okay, you know how, let's look at it this way. Let's not time travel, but let's think about this with me for a second here, okay? You know how in everything it always seems like the pendulum will swing one way, and then instead of it balancing in the middle, it's going to come right back and go to the other extreme, and it kind of just goes back and forth. It happens in life all the time. You can look at everything going on in the world today, like it'd be super conservative and then it's super liberal, and then we're like, oh god, this is way too liberal, we need to go way back over here conservative. Like, just as far as people and morality and the way everyone lives their life, there's usually an overcorrection, right? I think that is, let me put it this way. I completely lost my train of thought mid sentence on there. My stroke brain just got the best of me here. Ripple Bank license and institutions for the Clarity. Do you think next update the Clarity Act? Blah blah blah. Sorry, I'm trying to. I completely derailed my thought. I completely derailed my thought. But I was talking about the pendulum always swings too far, and then we overcorrect. But I don't even know why I was talking about that. You guys got to see it live in action. I haven't actually had that happen on a live stream to me yet. There goes my short-term memory loss. I completely lost where I was. For RLUSD to run on the XRPL, XRP is needed. If they're going to switch it out into other things, and yes, they do need it for the burn fees, but that's it. They only have to burn a little bit per transaction, I think, with RLUSD. But in order for XRP to be used, it needs to bridge something. And if they're just settling everything in RLUSD right now, which they are for the most part, they don't need a bridge to switch in and out of. That's why I said we need to get more things on Ledger, like the RL Yen, the RL Euro, right? Remember, XRPL is MiCA compliant. And again, wormholes going in so that sorry guys, my brain is not working great today. I was dealing with a bunch of stuff earlier and I just keep completely losing my train of thought. I'm sure it's all over my face too. I am struggling today. But I wanted to be on here on a Saturday night with you guys because I wanted to be able to have a chance to have access to more of you guys, but my brain is not all there today. I'm sorry, I have to admit it to you guys. Let me try and collect myself here. Let's hop back into something else, and I'll try and come back to the chat. Hopefully, I can get my brain working here. Let's see here. Let's go back to, we were talking about payments. We were talking about price. Here we go. Let's do this. We'll have some fun, and maybe fun will bring me back to where I need to be. Let's see here. Where's it at? There it is. That's not it. Man, I am not my brain today. Hopefully you guys aren't too mad at me. We'll get this figured out here. Let's see. Here we go. We'll take a second. We'll have some fun, and then I'll come back to it.
Show me the money! Show me the money! Show me the money! Show me the money! You my motherfucker! Show me the money!
My daughter must be streaming upstairs when I told her not to, because that's the only reason it would be lagging right now. Let's see here. Let's take a look at price. Are we looking at price? Yeah, we're looking at price together. So currently we're under EMA 9. We are falling below. Again, we're looking to pull back to probably the $1.75 level. I was talking about other infrastructure plays outside of XRP and other trades outside of crypto in general, talking about silver, copper, and other infrastructure plays. Again, when you're looking at, again, none of this is financial advice, but when you're looking at building out your portfolio, what I like to do is look at what problems are out there. And if we're looking at AI moving forward, and we're looking at crypto moving forward, and we're looking at cloud computing centers and data centers, then we're going to need infrastructure and we're going to need power. I definitely think that power is going to be a major problem moving forward. We're not going to have the power grid needed to support the infrastructure we're claiming we want to build. That's why they're pumping all of this debt into stocks like Nvidia and Oracle and all of these things to build out AI and cloud computing data centers or Bitcoin mining facilities and all of these other things, right? Power is going to be a prime commodity. So I've been looking into anything with alternative energy or energy infrastructure as an investment for the long term, because I think that will be a problem in the next 10 years as they're building out what they're talking about right now. Again, copper will be needed for all of those data centers, anything technology based for sure. Copper is going to be needed. Steel is going to be needed if we're going to be building these things out. So if we're talking about bringing manufacturing back to the United States, then we're going to have to build out the infrastructure for that. So we have to, again, when everyone else is playing checkers, you need to be playing chess. You need to be thinking 3 moves ahead instead of what's happening right this moment. You have to take the long view and solve that problem before everyone else, so you know where to go with it. And that got my head back into the game here. So Race Fan said for RLUSD to run on the XRPL, XRP is needed. Yes, it's needed for burn fees. Yeshua says no worries, just say because I had a little stroke brain moment where I completely forgot where I was. Operation Buzz says, what do you think will become of XRP's escrow? Well, if they're only allowed to keep 20%, and that includes what they have stashed in liquidity pools and corridors, right? Because they have roughly 40 billion total right now. So I think they could send it to business partners. They could send it to Evernorth, right? One company can't be in control of all of it, but Evernorth is not a part of Ripple. Evernorth is a DAT treasury company that's obviously closely aligned with Ripple. They have Chris Larson's XRP over there. That's part of their treasury. Remember when everyone said Chris Larson was dumping all this XRP? He sold it to Evernorth for them to start that treasury company, right? So again, I think Evernorth is a great parking spot. I truthfully think it will either go to Evernorth, their business partners, or a combination of the above. I don't think it's going to be flooded onto the market by any means at all. And now if they want to do something crazy, I've heard rumors like they may give it to the government and the government can use it and appreciate, and do all these things with the debt and all this kind of thing. Like if they took 20 billion XRP and then pumped up the price of XRP to $100 or something like that, they could pay off the national debt with XRP, but I don't think the rest of the world's going to fly with that. You know what I'm saying? However, we did do it with gold in the early 1900s when they bought everyone's gold and then repriced it like 3 times higher or something ridiculous like that. So, I mean, those things are definitely possible, but I truthfully think if they have to get rid of a lot of it, I think it'll end up with Evernorth. My opinion. John Wan says power will not be a problem. Fusion is right around the corner. Well, that you're confirming my you're literally confirming my point. That's why I said I've been investing in alternative energy, right? I've been investing in fusion for like the last 7-8 years. Before, I stopped investing in solar like a decade ago and started investing in fusion. So yeah, I completely understand. I agree with you, John Juan, but saying that fusion is around the corner, it's not here. And so by me saying that, yeah, power is going to be an issue if we don't have an alternative energy source, fusion is an alternative energy source. So, I mean, I agree with you. Brad Dixon says, try Mariaki methylene blue. I've never had a stroke, but it definitely helps with focus. Well, focus is an issue, Brad, but I mean, I do have an issue with focus. I have an issue with brain fog. I have an issue with migraines, headaches, and things like that. But the biggest issue I have is short-term memory loss. And I call it skipping or glitching, because I'll be doing something and then all of a sudden I'm in a place and I don't know what just happened. I don't know what happened 10 seconds before that or 20 seconds before that. However long it may be, it's like it completely left my brain from existence. So that's another byproduct of it. So I don't think that's necessarily a focus issue as it is to like, I don't know, an overload, if you will. It sucks when it happens. It used to be scary at first. I'm kind of used to it now. But it's all good. Brad said there's 20 people watching. Well, I mean, I don't have anything else, guys. It was supposed to be just kind of a chill stream tonight. I really wanted to be more or less engaged with the community and touch base and kind of give a grounding thought on the Clarity Act. Let me recap the Clarity Act for you all because, again, there's a lot of misinformation going around. You can follow me on X at Longview Crypto. It's where I retweet this stuff, but we don't want to see that real quick. But there's been a lot of misinformation. I don't think I have it pulled up here. I need to get better at bookmarking this stuff. Uh, President Trump plans to sue JP Morgan Chase for what he calls incorrect and inappropriate debanking. Shocker. No one likes JP Morgan. US Treasury only buys back 210 million of their scheduled $4 billion purchases. So again, this is not good. This plays into my pullback. They're not putting as much liquidity back into the market right now. Not a good thing, but Clarity Act. So Coinbase is coming back to the table. The Senate threatened to drop the bill. Coinbase said that never happened, but they're coming back to the table. This is all posturing and puffing up their chest. The Clarity Act's not going to be signed into law this month. It's not going to happen. It's more than likely not going to happen until before midterms, if at all it happens this year. But if at all it happens this year, if we get I would be concerned I'm only going to be concerned if the Clarity Act does not get passed before this administration changes. If this administration changes and we don't have clarity, now I'm concerned because we don't know who's going to come in and what they're going to want to do, and they could change everything. And I do know that the big banks are lobbying hard with the Democrats. You can see that from campaign contributions and everything else. So the big banks have their hand in the pockets of the Democrats. I will say that. Hopefully I don't get shut off of YouTube, but that's my opinion. Let's see. Let's get back into the chat. Let's see. Operation Buzz says 40 billion exits in escrow and 60 billion is in the market. Then available supply is at 100%. So if 40 billion exists in escrow and 60 billion is on the market, then available supply is at 100%. Well, no, I mean, I don't know what you're asking. Because really, I mean, the only available supply is the 60 billion, but so the available supply people have been assuming is about 15 billion. If you take out what's locked in the corridors, what's locked in the long-term wallets, lost wallets, what's locked in the ETFs, all of those things, we know there's about 1.6 billion on exchanges. So the rumor is that there's about 15 billion XRP that's really floating around out there that could be moved and sold. There's no real way of knowing what that total is. But by theory, yes, that means 60 billion is 100% of the available supply. Gunpowder says Ripple is participating in the World Economic Forum 56th annual meeting in Davos as both a sponsor and a panelist. Yes, I touched on that, Gunpowder. They will be there. They will be there with Trump. And don't forget, Ripple has been a WEF partner since 2022. Larry Fink is also involved with WEF. I believe he is their president or chairman, actually. When big names are in rooms together, again, this is not the first time we've seen that. It's something to keep an eye on, but that's why we look for the long view, not what's happening necessarily right this moment. But when you start connecting these dots, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, when you got those kind of powerful people all a part of the same thing, it makes you raise an eyebrow. Stephen Haynes says, would there ever be a price you would sell your precious metals? I'm kicking around selling my silver if it hits $100 an ounce. It's not necessarily a price thing for me. It's truly not. I try not to look at it that way, um, because I don't like to try and time tops or bottoms. The way I look at it is that if I need access to capital for some reason, I'm not going to pull it out at all unless I need access to capital for some reason. And if I need access to capital, then I'll take a look and see what's at the top of the market, what's at the bottom of the market, what, those kinds of things, and try and strategically plan it that way. Um, so I'm not trying to time tops and bottoms. Now, if I was wanting to pull it out to reinvest into something else permanently, again, I wouldn't try time it. You're at $92 an ounce or whatever it is right now. So how much are we talking here? If it gets up to $100, that's another 8%. But how big of a deal is that really going to be to you, and what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to sell it so you can go pay off credit card debt that's 30%? Then yeah, sell it now. Don't wait. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes any kind of sense. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to time tops and bottoms, I really don't have any advice on that topic. My opinion. I don't look at it in that light. Let's see here. Gunpowder says, in my opinion, this is huge. He's selling the XRPL to the world. I hope so. If he's selling, if it gets announced to the world that Trump and Ripple and Larry Fink and all these people, they turn it on and it goes to $1,000, I will be celebrating, popping the champagne right there with all of you. I just don't expect that to happen. At least not that fast. But I do believe that that'll happen over the next 10 years, right? With everything that they've built out and they've onboarded. I think I just have a little bit more patience with it, as opposed to getting amped up expecting a 10,000% return in a year. I'll be happy with a 500% return in a couple years. That would be great, especially like it takes time. Wealth is a mindset. Gunpowder says discussions focus on moving asset tokenization. Asset tokenization is great, and the good thing about it is a lot more is starting to be tokenized on the XRPL, which is very bullish to me. That's something that I was worried about. I was worried about where the tokenization was going to end up, because originally when tokenization was announced, XRPL was behind in tokenization, but they ramped up very, very, very quickly. So we don't have to worry about that anymore, and that's beautiful moving forward. It's looking good. John Beal says, what are your thoughts on iTrust Capital premium custody accounts? I have no thoughts on the iTrust Capital accounts. I haven't looked into it at all, other than what I've heard on other people's YouTube streams. So I really don't have any information on that. I wish I could, but I don't want to lie to you. But that's all the information I have for today, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm going to get off here and maybe try and go watch the football game. My head just doesn't have it today, unfortunately, but I'll be back on Monday at noon, and I'll be putting out another video tomorrow. I appreciate everyone who took their time to be here today. And again, sorry for the low energy day, but I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you on the next one. All right.